But, I think Jokic is just getting started. I think early in the season, Dr. A was very vocal about having concerns about whatever was going on with his hand. And I think now we can probably put that to rest. And, Jokic putting up wilt numbers, like he moved from 9 to 4 in per game value just off of that alone. So I think Jokic is definitely a person that's on the rise. And with the Nuggets now, also now we're talking about the Nuggets. Like, shout out to Aaron Gordon, who's just been playing absolutely outstanding basketball. Someone that was not on my radar at all to take this leap from a fantasy perspective, but he's been damn near top 50 value over the last few weeks. But yeah, I think this is about to be the Jokic show, and I mean that's just crazy. That was one of the top stat lines of the year easily. So, man, wilt numbers. That he had like 19 rebounds before, like in the first half.
He had 20 in the first half, which set a franchise record. It was.
What do you do?
It was obscene what he did. You mentioned Gordon. He's been playing really well of late. Bruce Brown is someone else who deserves mention. Like, he's been a really high value guy since stepping in for Michael Porter Jr. Even before that, we had Jokic and Jamal Murray out due to health and safety protocols. I think Bruce Brown's going to be someone to hold on to even after MPJ is back. We don't know exactly when that's going to be. So I think he's still limited to non-contact work. So it's going to be a while. If you have Bruce Brown, do you hold him, or do you maybe dangle him out there, see what you can get in return?
I'm a holder of all things Bruce Brown. I've been, in one league I actually dropped him early in the season, and it's probably one of my biggest regrets of the season, not knowing that MPJ was eventually going to get hurt, but like I still feel like he would have been a part of this rotation regardless. If you look in the offseason, all of the hype around Michael Malone and signing Bruce Brown was like, this guy's going to be a fixture of this rotation and going to be an impact player. And I think it's already shown that he can do that. He does a mixture of everything. He can give you he can be a point guard if you need him to. He can get rebounds if you want him to. He's a menace on defense, and he can attack the rim and he can shoot threes. Like, what more can you want from a guy that came very cheap, ranked well outside the top 150 earlier in the season. So I'm holding all Bruce Brown shares right now. I think he's definitely going to be an impact player continuing through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with that. As tempting as it may be to see what you can get, grass isn't always greener on the other side. So I think I would definitely hold on to Bruce and see what he can continue to give you moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that just to touch on it real quick, like the Michael Porter Jr. update that just really hasn't happened. I think this is another team that's probably looking well forward into the playoff mode. It's like, we need this guy later on the season, and we're still holding down the fort. And with Jokic putting up MVP type numbers, you don't need to rush him back. So I think that's even more reason to hold Bruce Brown in the short term. Don't sell yet.
You mentioned Anthony Edwards earlier, but I think the one thing that stands out to me from his line on Sunday were the 11 assists. Here's a guy who's been primarily a scorer, even with D'Angelo Russell back in there. Is this kind of a one-game blip in terms of the assists, or is this something that we're kind of thinking maybe you can carry this forward for a bit, especially with Karl Anthony Towns out?
I would love if he could. Over the last 10 games, Ant's been, second round value. And the frustrating thing about the Minnesota Timberwolves is that, like, Anthony Edwards is one of those guys that I tout as a breakout candidate, but I think when you have Karl Anthony Towns and Gobert playing next to each other, it's just clogging the lane. And he's never really had the space to really open up and do things and create and play make and facilitate that we can see, like those 11 assists. I think it is a blip, mainly because of all the injuries in the backcourt. He had to facilitate more, but I think that just goes to show why D'Lo is expendable and why you should invest in Anthony Edwards in this future and make him the center of your offense and make him the focal point, because good things happen. And I think while he may not get 11 assists anytime in the near future, I think it's just a great sign for his ability of what he can do in the future of being a true playmaker and shot creator for this team.
I think, if anything, I'm more excited for next year for him. Russell's going to be a free agent. They ain't paying him $30+ million.
No.
I can tell you that, immediately. But in terms of Edwards, if he can continue on this, what if they look at him as maybe like a hybrid type guard, similar to what we saw with, say, Donovan Mitchell in Utah, where he was able to play on and off the ball as his career progressed.
Yeah,
if
Devin
he can become
Booker,
that type, if he can become that type of player, that fantasy value is going to be through the roof.
Yeah, I think I was one year too early on the breakout, even though he's still, he's scoring, he's doing everything better than he did last year, minus the efficiency, but he's even improved on his free throw shooting that was hampering his value for much of the season. He needs to cut down the turnovers, but I think it's this breakout is it's on the way. And if we can get D'Lo out of there sooner rather than later, it's gonna be even better.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Booker. What he did to New Orleans on Saturday was a masterclass. 58 points, 6 3-pointers, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Man, no DeAndre Ayton, so that has to be taken into consideration. We're not going to expect him to score 50 every night, but
no,
it's just incredible what he's capable of doing as a pure scorer.
Yeah, second round value, Devin Booker. I think that's certainly. I think this is the best version we're going to see of him. Now with Chris Paul, his scoring is down, so I think that if you're looking at Booker, he is now the de facto alpha of this offense, and I think the deferring is going to be more prominent throughout the season. Now, I think Ayton was upgraded to questionable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he's participating in shoot around. So it could be a good sign for him to return to the court on Monday. So Bismack Biyombo streams, that won't last very long. And he wasn't really doing that great anyway. Really just a block specialist. But yeah, Devin Booker, what he's doing and just his volume of scoring is just crazy. So yeah, I would encourage anyone right now, just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Devin Booker's just a special dude. And I think that we're going to see him more of these spike weeks or these spike games just because Chris Paul is not the scorer that he was. And there's not really much offense being generated outside of, Mikal Bridges. We're really reaching right now. And we already saw Mikal Bridges getting 23 shots. It's not what you want in a game. So yeah, I think Devin Booker is definitely going to be the guy.